everybody, and it's me, 8-Bit Games here, with another modded review. And today we're going to be taking another look, oh god, this is so laggy, at the Psy mod. But today I'm going to be going step by step with the spell contravox sequence. Now if you don't know what contravox sequence does, well that's very simple because the codex doesn't really talk about much, but think of it as this. Oh, like, yeah. So contravox sequence is like a ritual type spell that builds a wall depending on a set area. So like 5 blocks, 2 blocks, and then 3 blocks. 3-dimensional space you do by coordinates. And when you cast it, it uses the block in your first slot to activate the spell. Now you can change that, but I'll get into that in another video. And it takes up that many blocks. So if I go into like game mode survival and I use a spell like so, it just does the one. So yeah. So it's really dependent on how many of a block you have in your inventory. And so essentially how this works is like this. This is to create a basic wall like I did outside. You have your trick block sequence. It places a sequence of blocks along a direction of a given vector. Now, its position, which is going to be a vector, is going to be from the vector raycast. Now, the vector raycast, this is a target light connector, which has 2 things pouring into it to the open vector raycast. Now, if you don't know, this is a vector subtracts. It takes 2 vectors and it basically minuses them, and it then is going to shove that into operator vector raycast. So it essentially gives this a value, a given value. Yeah. And this, the position at which it's going to be cast, that is going to be a regular vector raycast, you know, with the entity position of where you're looking from the self-caster, that's what that vector is. But is also going to take a axis raycast entity position. It essentially needs this to create that 3D graph that basically tells you how it's going to make the block and what limit it can go. And this determines how many far for blocks is going to do in that area. So the maximum amount of blocks is going to summon is 8, just like the just like that. And it is going to do creates planar normal vector, creates a perpendicular line to given axis vector. So think of it like this. So you have an axis vector, which is basically like a vector, but it's on a given axis. And a perpendicular normal vector is a regular vector that goes off from that axis vector perpendicular to it. So like rectangular. Ignore this stuff at the bottom. Arrow suppressor. In chat, like, if you, like, okay, so you know how when I cast a spell, it said arrow because I didn't have a block in that position. Arrow suppressor is essentially supposed to make it so it doesn't tell you that. But, I messed that one up. So yeah, that's how you cast, that, but I recommend having it in a ritual spell casting because it's a continuously it's continually creating blocks along its axis, so it's going to require ritual spell casting. It gets a little finicky if you do it with something else. This was supposed to be a recreation of the Vicstar, whatever the guy who made sign mods, like block wall, but I didn't get it right. But essentially, how this one worked is add 4 different spells in it, as I said in the previous one. A spell sentry can contain more than one spell in it, but that takes up the stuff like here, like potency, complexity, cost, projection, and bandwidth. This is taking up the entire bandwidth, so I'd need an Everly. I'd need an Everly one, because Everly has one of the most biggest potencies, but not the complexity. And I would also get, instead of this, the radioactive, that does, see, this one has 46 complexity. Complexity is, think of it of like this. So complexity is like, projection's the amount of tricks, complexity is the amount of actions it does. Like this operator vector construct is an action. This is taking 22 actions. So potency is something you need to think when making a spell, because that's dependent on your CAD. Transmissive CAD socket has 9 bandwidth, 10 sockets. Well, this one has 8 bandwidth, 12 sockets. So I say, why would I get that? That has less sockets, meaning it holds less spells. Yes, but the bandwidth is, you make spells dependent on what type of CAD you have on you. And so the bandwidth is the spell width or height, meaning this grid right here, it makes it bigger, so you need more space if you want to do a more complex spell like this. And give me a second, my cat just get in here, Snoog. Let me just get my chair. Alright, essentially what this is 4 different spells. Operator Vector Sum, exact opposite to Vector Minus, which subtracts things. This adds vectors. And Vector Construct, it creates an XYZ parameter. So this one would be a 0 block. This is 0 blocks wide, 0 blocks long, but 5 blocks high. So this should create a single block pillar that's 5 blocks high. And these do the same. And so essentially these added vectors kind of add this vector and this vector, and essentially put it into this, which basically means, like, so we have 2 parameters. If we add these parameters, yeah, to be honest, I don't even know. I'll cover it most likely now. Next part of the spell, Operation Modulus. This essentially is like, it divides number A by number B. So this loopcast index, which selects the amount of loopcast executions done, it essentially like puts a limit, because when you do a ritual spell, continually cast a spell into your mana stream. Loopcast and other things can stop it at a certain point, like the selector caster mana. So this basically dividing that by 9 means it only does it 9 times. This applies for all of these spells, which it then does at the entity position, target point. Entity position is going to be where you cast a spell. So that exact point is being cast at. Yeah, that's it. Hold on. I need to put a block here. Oops, accidentally.